everybody.
All right.
Okay, very good. All right, so Tom, do you want us to just ask you questions, or you want to tell us what's going on?
Whatever makes this show the internet sensation that it is.
All right. Well, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, where you're from. Are you a tax-paying citizen? Were you born in the United States? Start us somewhere.
I got a bag right here in my back pocket.
Okay.
I'm a father of three, husband,
Okay.
father of three. See, we'll do the.
It's all right there.
We'll do the snapshot right
Okay.
there.
Very good.
I've got it in my notes here. 2 girls, 1 boy.
2 girls, 1 boy. They, my 2 oldest started school today.
Okay.
So that's always a fun proposition, getting the kids back to school. My son started yesterday in 3rd grade.
Wow.
So they 3 different schools: elementary school, junior high, and high school. They keep
you
us
moving.
busy, keep us moving. But they're the reason why I'm running. I'm running for United States Congress, as you mentioned. It's a tough job and it's a tough race, but it's something that, quite frankly, given the condition of the country, given the condition of the state, and given the one-party representation that our state has, it's been ineffective, and it hasn't provided Delaware the best representation that we can have. And I got into public service, quite frankly, unexpectedly, about 3.5 years ago. I was just working, doing my job. I was an engineer, worked for a couple years, and put myself back through law school. Worked. I was at a firm in Wilmington. I had gotten to be partner. Done the whole thing. And the next year, 2008, Delaware, in our election in 2008, lost balance. We always had balance in our House and our Senate. We had a Democratic governor. We had a Democratic Senate. We always had a Republican House to kind of balance things out. Well, in 2008. It was one of those referendum elections, and it wiped out a lot of good other party representation. And that wiped out the balance in our state house. Well, to put me over the edge, 2 days after that, my state rep resigned. Literally 2 days after the election, after she had won unopposed. Well,
she resigned?
She had unexpectedly accepted and started working in a job in New Mexico.
Wow.
That's worth writing a book about.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, they kept her name on the ballot. Political shenanigans, which I thought at the time were awful. Now that I've been in politics 3.5 years,
It's the norm.
I've seen it. Unfortunately, it is.
So they kept her name on the ballot so they could appoint who they wanted.
They could appoint who they wanted. Right. Who's the Democratic House Attorney. So not only did we lose our balance in Delaware, but this seat was going to put us into a situation where there's a supermajority in both houses. And a 3/5 supermajority is required for both tax and spending legislation. So I said, look, I've got to do something. I introduced myself to my party chair. I was interviewed twice and announced as the candidate the following Monday.
Really?
And this was the Monday before Thanksgiving. This was so it was all a whirlwind. I'd never been in politics, never been in a campaign. I had a few friends, colleagues that I'd supported on both sides of the aisle. And got in and got the opportunity to represent my district. And my partnership said I could do it. We had a district that's 48% Democratic and 27% Republican.
Wow.
So they figured they'd let me do it because there's no way I'd win. And come December 20th, I'd be back practicing law. But I ran as myself, ran as an independent voice for the district, and got elected. And had an awesome time representing the district. And a really great time standing up for the right thing in Dover. Because I wasn't affected by the political system because I came in from outside. And it was great. It was an awesome experience. I worked with some really good Republican members of the House, and we really fought back against some harmful tax increases as much as we could. In that position.
Well, I doing some research on you. I found that you voted against the county annual budget. It included over an $80 million in deficit spending over 5 years.
Yes, sir.
For a county government, $80 million in deficit spending.
Deficit spending over 5 years. But our county up in Newcastle County is spraining its elbow, patting itself on the back for passing a balanced budget. And Colin, this was not a balanced budget. This was a budget that you raised the borrowing. And we exceeded our borrowing limit. We have a 20% limit on debt spending for our sewer services. We were at 23 going to 24. The administration's own projection was that we were going to be $80 million in deficit spending over 5 years. And not a single person except for myself would stand up against it. So I stood up against it. I voted against it. I voted against this budget back in 2011 when I first got elected. I said we need some changes, and I voted against it in 2012. But when I voted against it in 2011 and said one of the changes we need is pension reform, you know what? We got pension reform. So we're really
so you
hard.
didn't just say no, you said no and had a plan.
I said
of
no,
what to do.
and I had a plan and
Great.
offered solutions and suggestions.
Right.
This year I ran budget amendments. That was shot down by all members of council because they like things in the status quo. Well, I don't think things are going anywhere as well as we need to have them run in our county, up in Newcastle County especially.
You couldn't run a business like this.
You can't run a business, and if you're suffering as a business, you can't increase the price for your customers.
Right.
You have to decrease the price. We're in the government. We want to increase the price on our customers, which is our taxpayers, and we can't do that. We need to be much more efficient. And we need to stand up when things are wrong or things are against. One of the biggest criticisms I get when I bring up new ideas is, Tom, you don't understand. We can't do that because that goes against how we've always done it. We've always done it that way. We've always done it that way, and where are we today for that?
Right.
I mean, that's the question. So as one of 3 Republicans out of 13 on Newcastle County Council, I get to hold the gavel, but I have the same vote as everybody else. But I've been able to make progress of one of 3 Republicans out of 13 in Newcastle County.
That's good.
And I think I can do that and bring that experience and really help our state out and get to Congress. I'm an engineer, so I'm a problem solver. I'm a lawyer, so I'm an advocate. And by the way, I just got trained by the Superior Court last October in mediation training. So I'm a court-trained mediator.
Wow.
So,
Well, I see you've graduated from University of Delaware with degrees in chemical engineering, psychology, and then you got a law degree from Rutgers.
yes, sir. That
So
was
you've,
quite an
So if
experience.
Collins and
You've been in
I
the books
have
for a
an
long-
argument, you could really work to help us understand each other.
Yeah, psychology.
Right.
That's what it's about, Jim. And look, we get so polarized. And, I'm a Republican. And I believe in the Republican way of doing business, which is a smaller, more effective government. But there are some Democrats with some good points of view, and Democrats that we need to work with to make sure good things happen. But in this country especially, we have so polarized ourselves that we're not making the progress we need to make.
Right.
I mean,
agree.
take, for example, this ACA or Obamacare, whatever you want to call it. This fiasco of a bill is 2,000 pages. Nobody knows what's in it until after you pass it. That's disastrous. But you know what? There's some good things in there. So let's hold on to those few good things in there. I mean, portability and insurance.
Let's dissect it.
Yeah, dissect it, but defund the thing. Defund it so, we're not paying 3.5% in real estate transfer tax to fund this ACA. We're not paying, it estimates between $500 billion and $750 billion out of Medicare to fund this act.
Wow.
I mean, that's very harmful. We've got to put the brakes on those, examine the good parts of this bill, keep the good parts, and throw out the rest. But we need to do so in a way that we can make sure the American public is protected when we do this.
Right.
This-
And inform.
And informed.
This thing is too confusion for all parties involved.
It is. And one of the things that's great about Delaware is it's actually a constitutional provision mandate that we have one bill, one subject matter. In Congress, you get this huge health care act that's a 2,000-page monstrosity that has 60 different subjects in it. And you can't understand what it is. We need, as a Congress, to pass laws that can pass on their own muster, that can stand on their own feet, and be evaluated on its own merits. Why are we so afraid of doing things in the public eye? We need to be able to support of you. And you know what? Over the next few years, we're going to need to make decisions that are unpopular because they are cuts in programs that people are used to. They are changes in a benefit system
That are needed.
to preserve that benefit system. If we don't change Medicare, if we don't reform Medicare, Medicare's not going to be there for my parents when they need it. My parents are 75 right now. My mother doesn't talk to me about politics very much, but she talked to me about this ACA or Obamacare, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
she goes, Tom, is it true? When I'm 75, if I get cancer after that point, I won't be covered? I said, well, look, there's going to need to be some rationing to save in health care costs.
If the money's not there.
If the money's not there,
Right.
I mean, I don't want anybody to face that fear. But at the same time, we need to do a better job. And I think Republicans in Congress have dropped the ball making sure that we have accessibility to affordable health care. But this health insurance for all, it's not the way to fix our problems.
Right.
I mean, we'll make sure that the cost of health care is diffused throughout everybody, instead of making sure health care is affordable.
Right.
Instead of making sure we've made strides to prevent
Right.
defensive
Affordable
actions.
sounds better than free, because free comes with too much skepticism. Nothing's really
Nothing's
free.
really free. It's a matter of who's
That's
paying
almost
for it.
insulting
It
to the
is.
American public to try to convince us that you're going to open up the doors of every hospital everywhere, and all of a sudden everything's going to be free. I mean,
And that's it. And Jim, you hit the nail on the head. We've been sold a bill of goods. First, we were told it was constitutional because it's a mandate.
Right.
Now, it was argued to the Supreme Court and only approved because
As a
it was
tax.
a tax.
Right.
So, this bill that was passed by not one single Republican, not one, there's never been any piece of legislation so monumental, affects 1/6 of our national economy, that's not been passed by more than one member of the opposing party. No bipartisanship, no Republicans, crammed down our throats. People didn't even know what was in it when you voted on it. And yet, somehow we've got to accept this as the best we can do.
Yeah.
And it's because why? It's free, and it'll get people that can't afford insurance. People don't need insurance, they need health care. And that's, telling them otherwise
It really is.
is partisan rhetoric designed to...
Well, you've got a
Cure the masses.
primary coming up September 11th.
September 11th. That's
Get through the
right.
primary, and then
Get
you're
through
you're
the
on to
primary.
the general election.
Absolutely. People ask me all the time, Colin, how can you possibly win in Delaware being a Republican and being a guy that likes to tell the truth?
Well, let me tell you what I saw about you when I first met you. You're very approachable. I think that's part of the appeal. That's how
It's
I think
huge.
that's how you won in
Yep.
a Democratic district. That you're very approachable. I was real comfortable coming up. I went up and introduced myself to
At
you
the fair,
and-
that's
at
state
the fair,
fair, right.
And yeah, you were very welcoming and yeah. So I think that's part of the big thing.
but I feel
the appeal.
if you don't have a lot to hide or be ashamed of, then you can be approachable.
Exactly.
In other words, but I find some people that are a little hard to approach or get a hold of, they're either embarrassed about their accomplishments or lack of, or they're hiding something. So, I mean, some politicians that I meet and know, very approachable, can get a hold of them, no problem. And then some of them, you're like, where did they go after they got elected? In other words, are they still in Delaware? So that's kind of big with me. In other
Right.
words, I'm kind of big on people that, that project a friendliness and a willingness to serve. And I would agree. You've done that. And good family man. And sounds like you're a lawyer, evidently. Also by trade.
I am. I do environmental law, which I help our small businesses, our medium-sized businesses comply with what's really grown into a well-intended but very cumbersome and overburdensome system of environmental regulations, which add cost and kill business. I mean, we need to protect the environment. I have 3 children. I have parents. Sure. There needs to be a balance. And we keep doing things without a balance. We need to encourage businesses. We need to encourage smart, clean businesses. Well, the best, most productive business can most afford to be environmentally friendly.
Right.
And we need to keep that in perspective when we're putting these regulations on our companies. We chase away industry in the United States because we insist on it being uber clean. So then it goes to overseas, it goes to South America, and pollutes the heck out of the environment
Anyway.
for all of us
Right.
anyway.
Right.
I mean, we've lost the jobs, we've lost the ability.
revenue, everything.
We've lost the revenue, and we've lost the ability to have a clean producing facility.
Because the pollution doesn't stop at our borders.
No.
It comes over our
The
borders
wind can blow across the
whether we
border.
want it to or not.
Water
Right.
pollution, air pollution. I mean, a lot of these pollutants are global pollutants.
absolutely.
And if we encourage businesses to operate here, like the EPA has a setup, whereas you can be your grandfathered in under certain provisions. But if you change or modernize your plant more than 25%, you're going to get hit by overly complex, overly cumbersome environmental regulations. So what do as a business? You don't
retract.
modernize.
You don't grow.
You don't grow. You don't modernize.
Right.
You don't make it better.
Right.
So you pollute. Whereas if we relax some of those standards, we could actually get investment in those facilities, and they'd be better environmental neighbors, creating more jobs, and adding good, environmentally friendly industry back to our country.
Yeah.
Instead, we've let one particular perspective control where we go as a country, and it's not helping. And that's what you get when you lose balance.
Yep. It's kind of like a tire. When it's out of balance, it'll still go down the road, but it wobbles, it doesn't ride smooth, it builds up friction, and it usually wears out prematurely.
And then there's a blowout.
There you
And
go.
then there's a blowout.
Too much air, too little air.
Yeah.
You need the
Right.
right amount. You need the right amount.
What's the best way for somebody to get a hold of you
Yes, how do we get a
they
hold
want
of
to
you?
if they want to help you out in your campaign, if they want to donate, whatever?
Can people donate? Is that okay?
Oh, I guess so, Jim.
Think it through.
Let me think about that one. Well, look, we need investment in the campaign, and that's what I
Okay.
consider. I consider it an investment because you look at my track record: 3.5 years in government, first at the state level, now countywide. Again, as the first Republican to win in Newcastle County in 23 years.
Were you really?
First Republican to win in Newcastle County countywide in over 23 years.
Wow.
Since Reagan. That's the last time. But if we have, people are craving honest, responsible leadership.
They are.
But you're going to have to do things that, again, you're going to say things that people are going to go, well, Tom, I like
But if
the way
they make
things
sense, I think they'll listen.
are. They will. And I've had independents, Democrats, and even progressive Democrats come up to me and say, thank you for doing what's in our best interest of our county. And that means something. As a Republican, and I'm not changing my spots. I'm a Republican, but I believe in having ideas that can best serve our state. And you can find some of those ideas at www.kovachforcongress.org.
How do you spell Kovach?
K-O-V. As my mom used to say, K-O-V is in Victor, A-C-H, for Congress, F-O-R
Okay.
Congress, .org.
Very good.
Kovachforcongress.org. Visit the website, check us out. Send us an email at info@kovachforcongress.org. Send us an email. We'll get back to you because my job as a representative of Delaware is to hear from you. And every week I send out an email. I talk about things happening all across Delaware, and I ask a question because I want to hear your input.
That was one of my questions. You got Kovach's question. So I've read the latest one. It's about the construction up around Christiana Mall. So
That's right.
Yeah. So every week you're asking that question or a question and getting feedback from people.
Absolutely.
That's good.
Every week since I put this out, it's going on near 11 months now. Every week since we started this, we're asking a question, compiling the results, and helping to inform the way I'm going to represent Delaware. And sometimes they're silly questions about holidays and things like that. Sometimes they're about traffic, but sometimes they're about the presidential system. Sometimes they're about very important things.
Yeah.
But that's the job and I've done a lot of talking today. But as I travel around the state, I try to zip it and listen to the people because that's my job, is to represent the people in an informed manner. So I take my background as an engineer, being a problem solver, as an attorney, being an advocate, and a mediator, getting things done and reaching the best goals and the best solution for the people of the state of Delaware in this country.
Very good.
All right. So kovachforcongress.org.
Kovachforcongress.org.
Okay. And
Visit
you're on
early, visit often, contribute early, contribute often. Look for our latest. We're going to have a fun fundraising opportunity starting September 4th.